Hey guys, it's Rabea, and I'm going to teach you how to play a 12-bar blues in the style of Stevie Ray Vaughan. Okay, so I hope some of you know who Stevie Ray Vaughan is, probably one of the most iconic blues rock guitar players that ever lived. And he did a very cool thing when it came to the 12 bar. He created his own sound with it really. So I'm going to show you how to do that. There are two main things to bear in mind. Firstly, the picking technique, and secondly, what you do with your left hand and the way in which you play this 12 bar. Let's look at the picking technique. It's kind of like pick raking, whereby you're going to strum across all the strings in a very swung-like fashion, like this. You want to hold your pick reasonably loose, but not so loose that you'll drop it, and you want to start this picking rhythm on an upstroke, so that when you play your first note, it's on the down, and it really does feel nice and powerful. The other thing to remember here is that you do want to hit all the strings, but that's where the left hand comes in, because we're not going to hear all the strings. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the swing rhythm, imagine that you're counting 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And what we're going to do is accent the 1 and the 3, like 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1. So I want you to think about the upstroke being the 3 and the downstroke being the 1. So we actually start this rhythm without hearing the 1. We start it with the 3, like this. Now that we've got the strumming pattern down, it's important to look at how we mute the strings with our left hand. So to do that, we need to know what we're playing. So this 12 bar is in the key of E, and normally a 12 bar chord progression would be a 1, 4, 5. So that's going to be an E, an A, and a B. So let me play you the first part of this 12 bar. So the first 4 notes are an open E string, and then we're going to play the 3rd fret with our middle finger, and we're going to add a slight microtonal bend here, like this. Then we play 2nd fret A string, then 4th fret A string. The next 4 notes are 2nd fret D string, then 3rd fret E string with that microtonal bend, then A string 2, A string 4, like this. If you put the two together, you should have this. If you combine that with the strumming pattern, that swung strumming pattern, you should have this. If you remember earlier, I spoke about how I'm going to be muting some of those strings with my left hand. How I'm doing that is either using my thumb over the top of the neck, or I'm using the lower parts of my fingers just to catch some of those strings from ringing out. In this style, we do want to hear some strings ringing just because it's quite an aggressive sound, so it's important that you use your right hand to your advantage here. The second chord, the 4 chord, in our situation it's A, is utilising the same note pattern. We just move it up 1 string. So we start from the open A string, like this. So in this 12 bar, we're going to be playing the first chord twice round, and then we move to our 4 chord and play that round once before coming back to our first chord. So far, you should have this. Now the 5 chord in our situation is B. So you're going to start from fretting the 2nd fret A string with your index finger. We then slide up to the 5th fret with our middle finger, add that microtonal bend, and then we play 4 and 6 on the D string with our index and ring finger, like this. If we add our strumming pattern to that, In the 12 bar, we only play the 5 chord once in the whole progression. After that, we go back to the 4 chord, A, and we play that before we move to our 1 chord again and do our turnaround. So far, you should have this. Okay, so that's almost the whole 12 bar. Now we're going to do our turnaround. The turnaround sounds like this. The first notes we're playing in the turnaround are the 9th fret D and B string. Now you need to play the 9th fret D string with your middle finger and 9th fret B string with your ring finger. Now the cool thing here is that we can add our index finger to mute the other strings, because we need to be using quite an aggressive strumming technique on this turnaround. The next part of the turnaround is moving the same shape down a fret to 8th fret. We move that down again to 7th fret, and then we move it down again to 6th fret. Only the difference here is that we're not playing the B string with our ring finger, we're playing it with our index finger on the 5th fret. So if I put those 4 back to back, it should sound like this. Now the strumming pattern here is still swung, only we're adding an extra accent, so we're playing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. So it would sound like this. So now we're going to play our last chord of the whole turnaround, which is a minor 7 sharp 9 chord, down at the 2nd fret position in B, like this. If you want to ring the high E string out, feel free to, just adds a little bit more colour to the chord. So the whole turnaround should sound like this. If you notice there, I just added an open E string before playing that chord, just to add a little bit more drama to the chord progression. So now that we've learned the turnaround, we can add that to the end of the 12 bar. If you want to go over it, just double check that you know what you're playing. You can start from that 5 chord, which is B, then play the 4 chord, which is A, then do the turnaround, like this. Now that you've learned the turnaround and the whole progression, put the whole thing together and you should be able to play a 12 bar in the style of Stevie Ray Vaughan. So there you go, a great sounding 12 bar blues in the style of Stevie Ray Vaughan. If you haven't heard of him before, go and look him up because he's one of the most influential blues guitarists of all time. Hope you've enjoyed this lesson and I'll see you soon.